I'm sitting inside the Expo hall here at Wynn, Las Vegas for the wonderful Web3 Expo crypto conference that has been here through October 10th through the 13th. I was lucky enough to meet with the founders of the company, and they gave me little insights on what their plans are here for the Web3 Expo conference. They want to set a staple in Las Vegas to be the #1 crypto conference that can be an international event that people want to come to for years to come. I'm performing here in about 10 minutes over at the Huddle stage, talking about digital antiquities, which all of my community members know this is something that I've been preaching on for quite some time. Lucky enough for me, I get to compete with Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary, who's also performing next stage. So maybe we'll get some spillover to it. The event, I have to say, has been incredible. They gave all of the speakers a 4-day stay at the Wynn Las Vegas. So it's been a little bit of a staycation for me, but for everybody else, it's been a typical Las Vegas adventure for them. The events throughout the last 4 days has been pretty incredible. We've seen events down at downtown Las Vegas, on property, at the club, and then tonight, which is the first of a 2-day DGen NFT festival experience at Area 15. I'm excited to show everybody how amazing this has been, and that over the next few years, we get to see the growth of the Web3 Expo become something more than just a one-off crypto conference, but a staple for the Las Vegas community. So about to speak in 5 minutes, so let's get over next stage. All right, full crowd today. All right, thank you guys for coming. I'm going to be talking about a very small and niche topic in the NFT space that many people are not familiar with, but traditionally might be pretty familiar with. And it's called digital antiquities, which is the NFT version of, we call them relics or gems, right? So I hope here today, over the next 20 minutes, that I could give you guys a little bit of a history lesson, literally, about the entirety of NFTs, and then hopefully share some alpha on how you can collect and participate in this billion-dollar industry that currently exists. So for those that don't know, my name is Jake Gallen. I've been in crypto for a little bit, quite some time. I like to call myself an NFT historian. Some people like to call themselves NFT archaeologists. I know that sounds quite crazy, but crypto is kind of that way as well. And here we go. So what we'll be discussing the evolution of NFTs. For those that don't know, Bitcoin was launched on January 3rd, 2009. The first NFT, believe it or not, is not CryptoPunks. The first NFT was created on a blockchain called Namecoin, which was in 2011. So the first NFT is Bitcoin.bit. It was created April 21st, 2011. So just a little after 2.5 years of the inception of Bitcoin. And so also, so CryptoPunks are created in 2017. A lot of people thought they were the first NFTs to exist. And now today within NFTs, we see a lot of the models of rarity follow this like trait rarity style. So with CryptoPunks, you have about 20 different traits. They were randomly generated. And it's easy to kind of defer and kind of understand what's valuable and what's not. Within the world of historical NFTs, vintage NFTs, early NFTs, old NFTs, everyone kind of has their own definition for it. It's a game that's built off semantics. If anyone has ever collected antiques in real life or collectibles, you know that everybody kind of ascribes value differently depending on what they find as a priority or most prevalent. So we're going to dive into some of the semantics. We're going to explain all of the different vintage assets, and we're going to talk about kind of the future of history, as weird as it may sound. All right, so first and foremost, non-fungible assets. So as I mentioned, Bitcoin.bit was the first one. And so historical NFTs, they kind of move across various blockchains. As we know, and in today's current market, most of the NFT activity exists on Ethereum. But the NFTs, most historical NFTs actually exist prior to Ethereum as well. So you have Namecoin was Bitcoin.bit. You have the test token, which is minted on Counterparty. So Counterparty is a dApp that was built on top of Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin NFTs, yes, they do exist. The first one is called test token, and it literally exists. Check. Did this die on me? Check. What? Oh. I think that died on me. Check. All right, here we are. We're back. So test token, it was exactly just as it is. It was just a handful of tokens that were existed just to test the network. And then Doge Party. So a lot of people don't know as well. Dogecoin NFTs have existed also since 2014. And the first token on there is the LBTC token, which was essentially used for a podcast. And then you go down to Ethereum, which unironically, since I created this, there has been two different projects that have found to predate Ethereum since this is. And this is, that's part of something called NFT archaeology, where people literally go around and they look through different forums, they look through different contracts, and they look through Google to try to find different smart contracts that have transferable tokens that hopefully can predate these projects and then find a little bit of value. A little side note, one of the projects that was just found before Ethereum is called Lanaji Name Registrar. If anyone has been following the crypto space or the NFT space in the last few weeks, it's a very, very hot topic. And somebody actually had to apply an algorithm or an AI to find that project at the time. So people are going through weird and crazy lengths to try to find these old projects. So meaning, right? No matter what blockchain you're on, everyone values things differently. Some tokens are consistently wrote off as scams, but that doesn't mean that they're a scam. It just means that they don't believe in different value metrics. So I'm going to give you, so when people are evaluating these historical NFTs, the common 5 ways to attribute value is either timestamp, right? How old is the asset? Is there historical significance? Did it introduce some type of innovation at the time? Cultural significance, is there a community around it? Did the community not let this project die? As you see, like with CryptoPunks that were created in 2017, the community stuck around the entire time, and that's how they are today. There's a huge amount of cultural significance. Did it introduce any type of innovation? And how scarce is the asset? At the time when CryptoPunks were created, there was 10,000, and there was probably less than 10,000 people in the entire NFT space. So that's why it took about 4 or 5 years for it to finally hit that breakaway speed. So when you go on to Namecoin, a lot of people find value in the registry. Namecoin is the first altcoin that was created. A ton of crypto pioneers actually had various contributions to Namecoin, excuse me, including Satoshi Nakamoto, who didn't actively develop on it, but offered a lot of insight in Bitcoin Talk, on Bitcoin Talk forum about forking his own blockchain at the time, or their blockchain. And so a lot of people kind of find a lot of value in that, even though he didn't actively develop on it. He was one of the people who proposed to fork the blockchain. So Namecoin is similar to ENS. The tokens expire. So a lot of people find value in the registry and not the token itself. The history, when was the token registered, and then was it re-registered over time? Did people let it expire? And so that's why they say the token, or the value is in the registry. With Counterparty and Doge Party, since these tokens are primitives to NFTs, the technical term of NFT was created in March of 2018. A lot of the standard token principles that you see with an ERC 721 or even an ERC 20, which we'll talk about in a second, don't apply to anything that came before Ethereum. So the value is in the token, and a lot of people say this because with Counterparty and Doge Party, the images can be changed consistently. So it becomes a little bit more of a semantic view of why these tokens, Spells of Genesis, Rare Pepe, Bitcoins, and some of these other ones that exist, comes down to the community and the token. And then with Ethereum, we see that the value kind of changes over time with various things. The values in the art, the early NFTs that found success on Ethereum were on Super Rare, on Known Origin, and Foundation. And then once we had the PFP movement, then it became the values in the community. So over time, we'll see this consistently. Value will change on Ethereum to whatever the next popular NFT project is. A lot of people think it's going to be gaming. And yeah, so values in the community. Right, this is something that we hear consistently, time and time again. And I don't think that's going away. I think that's probably going to be the winning feature over time. And so here's some grails, right? We get to talk about historical NFTs, what's valuable. Well, let's actually look and see like what has found a lot of success. So Namecoin, so there's 42 blockheads on Namecoin. The interesting thing about this project is that it's called an inattentional project, meaning that 42 different people in 2014, they individually went and created these avatars from an off-chain project called 8bit, which 8bit.me is now a 2022 project. So 42 individuals created these avatars and then minted them or registered them on the Namecoin blockchain. And so then people retroactively went through and searched through Namecoin, found these and grouped them together and called them blockheads. And actually, believe it or not, the highest selling one right here was collected by Matt Kalish, who's the co-founder of DraftKings. So there's actually a lot of huge collectors in the historical NFT community that are a little bit older generation because it really resonates with them. And then you go over to Counterparty, highest selling asset so far, Papanopoulos, which is takes after Andreas Antonopoulos, who was probably speaking to a crowd about this size back in 2013 with the infamous video, and is just a huge pioneer. This was actually sold at Sotheby's auction house, and that was the final hammer price, 3.6 million. There's 9 one-of-one rare Pepes that exist. And then, of course, CryptoPunks. This one sold towards the end of last year, or beginning of this year, right before the bear market, sold to the founder of Chain, which has been helping a lot of projects, or a lot of Web2 companies, including the Patriots, kind of get into Web3. So this is the highest selling NFT outside of the Beeple sale that we had for 69 million at Christie's last year. So here's some more notable sales. A lot of people don't realize this, but most of the highest NFT sales outside of art is actually all historical NFTs. We've seen a few $1 million sales from some PFP projects, but anything that goes higher than that has all been historical NFTs. So I don't know if you guys remember, at some point last year, if you see at the bottom, EtherRock, it was actually on NBC and ABC and all over the news that these clip art pictures of rocks were selling for $3-4 million at a time. It kind of took over the space. It's become a huge meme, and they're still selling for millions of dollars today, which is literally just a picture of a clip art that you could find on Google and was minted around Christmas time in 2017. If we remember, and we look through some of these, some other notable ones, Curio Cards, which is the first NFT art collection on Ethereum. Shout out to Mad Bitcoins, one of the co-founders here in the front. A full set of Curio Cards sold to Christie's, and Max is here, original artist as well. Sold at Christie's for $1.2 million to Taylor Gehring, who's one of the co-founders of Ethereum. And so this 30-piece collection has become a staple as an early innovative pioneer to try to introduce different art to the Ethereum blockchain. And then Mooncat Rescue, this is my bias and my favorite, came right after, is introduced right after CryptoPunks in 2017. It's a collection of 25,440 pixelated cats that were generative and on-chain at the time. The top buyer of this one was actually Logan Paul for $550,000. CryptoKitties is was actually the most popular NFT project in 2017. It actually almost brought down the Ethereum network in 2017 because people were breeding these cats and were selling for high prices. So here's an image by White Rabbit, who's a pioneer and an NFT historian. These projects right here were minted and created in 2014 through 2016 across different blockchains. If you could see the Holy Grail right here, the Nakamoto card, which is up at the top. This is the first rare Pepe card, Series 1, and these have actually held up very well in the bear market that have been selling to this day. I think one sold a few days ago for about 100 ETH. And then you have some other early projects. There's one on there called BitGirls, which was a project that was created in China, that they're trying to take tokens that you could, that was a dating show that you could take tokens and buy it that represents the girl. And then the ones that had the least amount of tokens purchased were voted off of the show. So there's all kinds of interesting early experiments. And it's just something that you don't forget about. This is called the golden NFT emergence, purely because of the scarcity. Between 2014 and 2016, you have maybe 20 projects total that represent some sort of like non-fungible token that exist. And for a lot of collectors, that is very valuable because that supply, as long as another project isn't found, is likely to never change. So then here you have another one, the silver era. And this is kind of like the coming out party. This is where a lot of projects on Ethereum began to surface. And you have about, in 2017, I believe 20 to 25 projects that are on top of Ethereum. And then on Bitcoin, you have maybe another 10. So really not that many, but you can start to see the difference and experimentation that begins to happen on here. You have the top left, you have crypto bots, you have crypto cats at the bottom left. On the right side, you see a moon, right? So that's lunar plots, moon cats. And you start to see some of the memes take hold. In 2017, you actually see a lot of things surrounding Lambos, moons, and cats, because that's kind of how crypto was at the time, going through the ICO bubble. Everyone was going to the moon, and everyone wanted to get rich. So these have become staples that kind of resemble the time that existed back then. And here's this to me is my favorite graphic that kind of explains historical NFTs the best. You can see down here, 2011, this is the beginning of NFTs and experimentation. And then right towards the beginning of 2018, we kind of have this explosion of NFT collectibles of various degrees, from gaming to early music experimentations. This is before PFPs even existed. PFP was not even something that was part of the nomenclature. And now in 2022, we're seeing roughly a few hundred projects being put out per week, and it's only going to continually grow. So the true scarcity of these projects is going to be tough to find, so you'll have to carve out different innovative niches within the NFT space to try and understand where to get there. So how did we get here? These are some of the important and notable moments that happened in NFT history that I wanted to write down so that you could look at and see, from the introduction of from the ERC20 to the ERC721, from forking Bitcoin to BitDNS, which is now called Namecoin, to different storage solutions. So IPFS wasn't created until I believe 2015, and really didn't find a lot of use until about 2017. So different ways of how to store an image or store data files on the blockchain had a lot of different experimental ways. And for some collectors, that provides even more value because these are all unique ways to preserve your history of the token. And generative art, which is now one of the most popular forms of creating art on the blockchain. CryptoPunks are said to be the first generative project, but there's no way for us to know what algorithm they used, so you kind of just have to go off their credibility. But they did innovate the on-chain generative movement, which inspired art blocks, which we know today is pretty much where all of the generative art and activity takes place. And then if you go all the way down to the bottom, this is how I actually got into historical NFTs. the Mooncat rediscovery, March 12th. This project of 25,000 cats were rediscovered, but only 5,000 had been minted of 20,000. And so there's this big moment on crypto Twitter where we had about 6,000 people trying to mint these cats for free, and the floor went from zero, literally 0 to 2 ETH in the matter of 2 days. And this is where people began to realize, like, hey, if this project, which at the time was known as the second oldest NFT, and that to me made a lot of sense. I owned an antique store in real life. I understand history and scarcity. It was this big epiphany moment. And since that day, March 12th, we've probably rediscovered at least 100 or 200 different projects that were abandoned or forgot about, or the community had just kind of withered away. Here's a clock to show all the rediscoveries. I know you can't read any of this, but this is just to show like how crazy everything has happened over the last year and a half. Everything on the left-hand side pretty much was rediscovered in the last 18 months to kind of show how many old projects are out there, and kind of just like the chaos that's ensued since then. But yeah, that's the history up at the top right. You can see the beginning of the fungible era and some of the first NFTs being created, and now exactly to where we are today. So what was found, right? Counterparty tokens, you have Namecoin tokens, and this is where we get into a lot of controversy of people finding things and labeling them as historic, but the semantics and ideology doesn't always currently represent how people decide to ascribe value to different things. And so here's some important definitions before we get out of here. I want people to just remember these: the difference between vintage NFT, historical NFT, which is vintage has to do with age. Historical NFT is around semantics, and it's more just resembles like how does somebody describe a history. Every single person in this room probably has a different definition of what's historic. Vintage is absolute with time. NFT archaeology, somebody who finds projects. An NFT historian, somebody like myself who likes to talk about history. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope everyone here has learned a little bit about historical NFTs or early NFTs, however you want to describe it. My name is Jake. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me.
Can I ask questions now?
I wish. In the hallway. Just hit me up in the hallway.